This is Detective Recapped. Today I'm going to explain a romantic drama film called Tamara Drewe. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Amidst the hazy, rural town of Udown is a cozy cottage where writers from all over the United Kingdom gather to take solace in the quaint little bit of paradise. It's in the middle of summer, and this writer's retreat boasts of a colorful cast of writers on holiday, working on their respective novels. The caretaker of the house is Beth Hardiment, who serves food and encouragement to the authors there. She's married to the acclaimed writer, Nicholas Hardiment. They've been married for 25 years and have been running this retreat for a long time now. One afternoon, Nicholas receives a call from Nadia Patel, the woman he's having an affair with, and she informs him that she had just arrived in Udown. This has Nicholas panicking because he didn't expect Nadia to be in such close proximity to him and his wife. Just as he hangs up on the phone, Beth comes in and asks about the call. He quickly makes up an excuse before telling her that he's going to town that evening to get a drink. Suspicious of his true intentions, Beth volunteers to go with him so they could have a nice dinner. Andy Cobb is an attractive young man who works as Beth's assistant in the Hardiment farmhouse. He looks after the livestock and takes care of the crops. That afternoon, Andy notices Beth's growing distress. He asks her if she's okay and she forces a smile, signaling him that things are fine. Meanwhile, a young and beautiful woman named Tamara Drewe comes home to Udown after being away for several years. As soon as she gets to the first street in town, her car is pelted by two eggs. The jokesters are Jody Long and Casey Shaw, who are both high school students. After this little incident, Tamara heads over to her childhood home, which has since been abandoned after her mother died. That evening, the writers at the retreat enjoy an outdoor dinner together. Suddenly, a noise from outside the house startles them, but it's just Beth and Nicholas having an argument. He keeps trying to dissuade his wife from coming along that evening, prompting Beth to confront Nicholas about the affair and ask him who the girl is. Nicholas tries to give terrible excuses for his womanizing ways, but this only pisses Beth off more. Sternly, the woman warns him to never come back to the house again if he goes to see Nadia. The next day, Andy tries to comfort Beth after her entire argument with Nicholas. She comes inside the house and goes straight to her room. Nicholas comes in too, and after some explanation, the man apologizes for what he has done. As difficult as it is for her, she still takes him back, and the two of them are back together again. Unbeknownst to the couple, the nearest bathroom is being occupied by the American writer, Glenn. He's been going around Nicholas's room, marveling at his many awards and accolades, and Glenn can't help but feel envious of the man's achievements. He had also developed a close friendship with Beth and Andy. In an amusing turn of events, Glenn ended up being stuck inside the bathroom, while the Hardingtons are making up in the next room. After this mishap, Glenn makes his way outside and hears an alarm going off from somewhere. Glenn and Andy walk directly to the source of the alarm, which is coming from the abandoned Drewe residence. There they see Tamara pounding on the alarm with a hammer. Shocked, Andy immediately demands to know who Tamara is, and the woman bluntly answers him and calls Andy an idiot for not recognizing her. The three of them go inside the house, and Andy helps Tamara with the alarm. She tells them that she'll be selling her mother's house before asking the two if either of them are interested in purchasing it. Glenn and Andy refuse, and the entire time, Andy is surprised by how different Tamara has become. The guys head back to the retreat house, and on the way there, Andy tells Glenn that he and Tamara dated back when they were teenagers. Tamara had a large nose at the time, and she was always made fun of for it. That's also why Andy didn't immediately recognize her. It's clear that Tamara enjoys flaunting her sensuality now, but Andy doesn't really care about her new look since he already loved her when they were young, even before she got all glammed up. Meanwhile, Jody and Casey are holed up under a waiting shed while reading a magazine. Casey tells Jody that she has to go help at the writer's retreat because her parents are asking her to. There, Casey helps with handing out the snacks to the writers, and she eventually gives some to Glenn, who's in the middle of talking to Nicholas. Since he perceives him to be a sleazebag, Glenn starts underhandedly belittling his work. As wounded as Nicholas is, he can't retort out of courtesy, which Glenn is very much aware of. Suddenly, Tamara makes her way to the writer's retreat, stunning everyone who laid their eyes on her. Some of the writers there recognize her name from the news column she writes, while Nicholas can only look at Tamara with a very hungry gaze. Beth soon greets her, and they start talking about Tamara's mom and the house. She asks Beth to find someone to help her fix up the house, but that didn't seem necessary as several men, including one woman who's writing a lesbian crime novel, immediately volunteer. They don't cut it though, since Tamara is intent on having Andy come and help her. The next morning, Glenn ends up being the one to help Tamara. The two of them head off, and in the afternoon, Glenn talks to Andy about Tamara. He says that Andy should go and be with her, but Andy refuses since their relationship didn't end well when they were young. Andy then looks back at the time when he broke up with her for shallow reasons. Meanwhile, Nicholas is looking out on the horizon, gazing at Tamara from the distance. He starts thinking about the time when Tamara once came on to him, but he rejected her. Later at Tamara's house, Andy comes by to give Tamara a catalog that she can refer to for the house's renovation. He's blown away by how beautiful she looks, but Tamara maintains an air about her as she cheekily abandons Andy to go to her job, leaving him to work on her house. Tamara's set to interview the rock star drummer Ben Sargent from a band called Swipe. During their performance, Ben starts making a scene after seeing his current girlfriend on the guitar lovingly caressing their frontman. Several people try to stop Ben from causing total chaos there, but one thing leads to another and he accidentally falls on top of Tamara, who was waiting for him backstage. They head on over to Tamara's house where they nearly instantly drop the pretense of the interview in favor of making out and hooking up. But on the way to Tamara's house, Ben caught the attention of Jody and Casey, who saw him driving down in his bright yellow car. The young girls followed him to Tamara's place, and they quickly hide so they can spy on the couple from outside. Eventually, Andy arrives with a handful of freshly picked mushrooms. He's surprised to see Ben's dog, Boss, in front of Tamara's door. And when he enters the house, he immediately spots 2 empty bottles and clothes on the floor. After a while, Andy stops midway through the stairs upon hearing Tamara moaning from her bedroom. This breaks Andy's heart, and he storms back outside to angrily throw the mushrooms that he had just picked. The days march on and autumn soon arrives. Glenn and Beth continue to grow closer, and Beth finds herself admiring Glenn's sincerity and his caring gestures. One evening, Nicholas is holding his weekly Q&A session with his local fans, most of which are women. In truth, the entire dinner is just a self-gratifying fan worship session for him, who's currently masking his giddiness with false humility. Wanting to help Beth out, Glenn would set the dessert at the table for her. While Nicholas is going on about how all writers are liars and thieves, Glenn would suddenly interject with the quote, "The basis of all excellence is truth." This quickly shuts up the arrogant Nicholas and his brand of groupies. Here, the difference between the two men become even more apparent. Nicholas panders to his readers and gives them what they would like to read, valuing Gil and craftiness, while Glenn stands for his truth, writing things only that feel authentic for him. Meanwhile, Ben and Tamara continue their relationship, much to Andy's annoyance, and in his frustration, Andy eventually vents it all out to his casual fling, Zoe. Boss the dog soon runs wild and scares off the cows at the neighbor's farm, and this ruckus has caused Beth to keep the dog on a leash since the neighbors might shoot him if he keeps stressing out the cows. That same day, Ben nonchalantly proposes to Tamara, and surprisingly, she agrees. Winter comes and the cold starts creeping into Ben and Tamara's relationship. It all started when Tamara discovers that the ring Ben proposed to her with was fitted for his ex-girlfriend. One evening, Ben and Tamara head to Nicholas's book signing, where Tamara shows Ben off to the writer as a way of getting back at him for rejecting her when she was, well, a teenager. In that same evening, Jody and Casey raid Tamara's house in a fangirl-induced frenzy. They go through Ben's belongings and steal a shirt of his before Ben and Tamara could come back in. The couple start arguing about where to go since Ben wants to go back to London since he's bored in the country. But Tamara wants to stay as it's easier for her to write there. The day when Ben and Tamara are set to leave for London, Ben walks up to Andy, who is currently plucking a goose. The two men get riled up after intimidating each other, and Ben abruptly leaves. Glenn comes in, musing to Andy about how it seems like the bad ones always get the girl. Later on, Tamara finds it more difficult to write in London, especially when Ben constantly practicing the drums. One afternoon, Tamara gets a call from Andy, asking her what he should do with the shed. After Tamara playfully asks him what he thinks, the two agree on preserving it. The shed is special to both Andy and Tamara since that was the place where they first professed their love to each other and made love. When Andy's finished with the house, Jody and Casey go to see it. Jody's very much against the house's classic theme, while Casey's entirely on board with it. To Jody, the cozy atmosphere isn't something that Ben would like, since he's probably go for something more glamorous, while Casey keeps commenting her Uncle Andy for the tasteful work he did on the house. Jody would start going on about her deep teenage fantasies about the drummer, but Casey doesn't pay attention to her ramblings. She's too busy reading Tamara's copy of her manuscript, which is an autobiographical novel about her early life. Through this, Casey realizes that deep down, Tamara's really sad. With Jody's increasing obsession with Ben, she starts messing around with Tamara's computer back in her house. To Casey's disbelief, Jody's sending out an email to Ben, Andy, and Nicholas while posing as Tamara. The email is an invitation to sleep with the unknowing Tamara, and since he could see that the email was also sent to two other guys, Ben becomes overly jealous. This eventually drives their relationship to end. In her heartbreak, Tamara goes back to Udown. Jody's email also has Beth even more suspicious of Nicholas, while the more reasonable Andy calls Tamara to clear the whole thing up. When Tamara goes home, the first thing she does is look for Andy, and on her way to find him, she encounters Nicholas, who's trying to get it on with her. And even though Tamara makes it clear that she wasn't the one who sent the email, the married, shameless, sleazy, and did we mention married writer still insists on doing it with her. At the bar, Tamara finds Andy kissing Zoe, which breaks Tamara's already broken heart even more. The woman cries, and in her distress and vulnerability, she doesn't stop Nicholas when he eventually goes to her house to sleep with her. In spring, Glenn returns to write at the retreat, seeing as his editor was pleased with the work he did during his time there. Meanwhile, Nicholas and Tamara are now having a regular affair. While Jody and Casey are spying on Tamara, Andy knocks at her door and invites her for a drink. Tamara says that she can't at the moment since she's busy writing, but just as Andy is about to leave, he notices Nicholas's red scarf hanging on Tamara's wall. Soon enough, Nicholas leaves too, and the girls are shocked to catch him and Tamara kissing. They look him up on the internet and quickly find out who he is. The girls aren't impressed though, and they even call him a D-lister. Being the more reasonable one of the two, Casey mentions that she feels bad for Nicholas's wife. Soon, the meddling kids decided to take action. They find Nicholas's car hidden in the woods, and they proceed to gut the tires. They wait until Nicholas has Tamara help with the car. Then the moment they kiss, Casey and Jody take a picture from the tree they're hiding in. Despite their initial hesitation, they decide on sending the photo to Beth so they can take her away from Nicholas. One afternoon, Ben sends Tamara a message saying he needs someone to look after Boss while he's there in Udown. Of course, Jody takes this as an opportunity to manipulate Ben into coming back in town. Jody writes the email using Tamara's email address and tells Ben to contact Jody, saying that she's a reliable dog lover. Casey can't believe what Jody's typing, but the girl desperately tells her that if she lets Ben slip by, she'll be washed up like her mom without having anyone decent snog her. At this point, Casey just sees Jody as mental, so she ends up leaving her since she's too hung up on her rash impulses. As for Nicholas, he's set to go on a trip for a book festival where he'll be interviewed. While this is happening, Casey decides to send a picture of Tamara and Nicholas kissing to Beth. She's completely devastated, leaving Glenn and Andy trying to comfort her. A little later, Tamara tries speaking with Andy, but he's already seething with anger over what she had done to Beth. Andy asserts that Beth had helped him when he was at rock bottom. He owes her a lot and he's hurting for her. And all Tamara could say is that this is none of his business. During the book festival, Beth confronts Nicholas about his serial womanizing in front of an entire crowd. Among the crowd is Tamara, who's struck with shame of everything that's happening. After the humiliating incident, Nicholas has the gall to run after Tamara, but she ends their affair then and there, leaving Nicholas frustrated. Thanks to her most recent antics, Jody's finally able to meet Ben. She's been receiving calls from Casey about Boss the dog running wild in the farm and stressing the cows out, but she doesn't answer the phone. She's too preoccupied with Ben, who entertains her just until Tamara gets home. Meanwhile, Glenn's been trying to comfort Beth after everything that unfolded. He finally admits his feelings for her, and the two of them share a kiss. Nicholas walks in the room and sees this. He and Beth move outside, where Nicholas tries to apologize. But at this point, Beth's completely sick of his fooling around and finally demands a divorce. In this inopportune moment, Boss decides to make an appearance. Frustrated, Beth just shoos the dog away instead of putting him on a leash. After this, Nicholas looks for Glenn, since he's upset about him kissing his wife, who he's been cheating on for God knows how long. He finds him sitting on a stone in a field near the cows. The two men end up fighting, which escalates to them pushing and shoving each other. This causes Nicholas to fall and hit his head against the stone that Glenn was sitting on. In an unfortunate series of events, a stampede of stressed out cows is fast approaching. Glenn tries to wake Nicholas and move him away from the stampede, but he couldn't lift him or get him back to his senses in time. Barely conscious, Nicholas is in too much of a daze to move out of the way, despite the incoming herd of cows being chased by Boss. As for Glenn, he's powerless to help Nicholas, so he moves away to safety at the last minute, saving himself but not the man. And the tragedy of it all is that the young Jody is indirectly responsible for this incident, since Boss is supposed to be under her care. But a life is now lost, and the manipulative little girl wouldn't even know that it's her fault. A few moments later, Andy arrives at the farm with a rifle in hand to shoot Boss and stop him from causing any more harm. But the neighboring landowner shoots first, and loud gunshot echoes to the entire neighborhood, alerting Beth, Glenn, and Tamara. Terrified that he might be incarcerated, Glenn panics and escapes from the scene of Nicholas's death. Tamara and Beth get to Nicholas's body at roughly the same time. In her devastation, Beth breaks Tamara's nose out of anger, causing it to bleed. After all of the chaos had died down, Glenn tries to leave the town for fear of being suspected by the police. However, Andy stops him and says Beth is looking for him as she desperately needs someone to be with her. Glenn rushes to Beth's side and comforts her. She keeps blaming herself for what happened, for not tying the dog, for not doing anything. But during this critical moment, Glenn tries but fails to tell her the truth about what happened with Nicholas. Instead, all he could tell her is, "You live in the country. You shared with those dangerous beasts. And when they get scared, they run. Like we do." Glenn would then spot a poster of Nicholas, with his words in large text that reads, "That's what storytellers are, thieves and liars." This leads Glenn to realize that he was not the man he thought he was, and in the face of fear, he's just another liar. Amidst the chaos, Andy and Tamara finally settle their feelings for each other. They begin living together in Tamara's house, which was originally Andy's ancestral home. Now with her nose bandaged after the injury, Andy mentions to her that he always liked the old one better.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.